There comes a moment in every person's life when something inside of them whispers, "This isn't all there is." And maybe you've felt that whisper lately, in the quiet hours of the night, when the world slows down just enough for the truth to rise. Maybe you've felt a strange pull, a sensation in your chest, a heaviness, as if life is trying to reveal something you've been avoiding for years. You wake up and the world feels slightly off, like a familiar room rearranged while you slept. Conversations drain you more than they used to. Old dreams no longer fit. And deep within, there's a pressure, a knowing, that you're standing on the edge of a shift you can no longer postpone. If you're aligned with quantum reality, if your consciousness is waking up, then this message won't feel like a video. It will feel like a sign you were meant to find. If this message resonates with you, make sure to subscribe. This journey is just beginning. The call of the shift. Most people ignore the signs. They feel the nudge, the discomfort, the quiet but persistent pull towards something greater. And they push it down. They return to routine, to autopilot, to the version of themselves the world expects them to be. But you wouldn't be here if you were meant to ignore this, because there's a reason this message found you at this exact moment in your life, a reason you didn't scroll past, a reason you felt that flicker inside your chest, the one that feels a lot like recognition. Quantum reality doesn't shout, it doesn't demand your attention, it whispers, testing whether your consciousness is awake enough to hear it. And right now, you're hearing it. That alone tells me something powerful. You're aligned enough to receive the sign most people will never notice. The pain you don't admit out loud. Let's be honest. You've been carrying a weight for years. The weight of feeling like you're meant for something you can't yet explain. Maybe you've been struggling with a quiet sadness, the kind that doesn't show on your face but lives in your spirit. Maybe life feels like it's losing color, and you don't know why. Maybe the dreams you used to chase don't fill you anymore. And maybe, just maybe, you're tired of pretending you're fine. But what if I told you something that might shift everything? The heaviness you feel is not depression. It's the friction between your old identity and your emerging consciousness. This is the spiritual growing pain no one talks about. This is the pressure that appears right before a quantum awakening. This is your old timeline trying to pull you back, while your new one is calling you forward. And the conflict between them? That's the ache in your chest. That's the emotional exhaustion. That's the lost feeling that has nothing to do with confusion and everything to do with transformation. You're not broken, you're upgrading. There's a misconception in our culture. If you feel disconnected or tired or misaligned, people assume something is wrong with you. But spiritually awake people understand something deeper. Those sensations aren't signs of brokenness. They're indicators of alignment in progress. You're not falling apart, you're shedding, you're not losing yourself, you're emerging, you're not stuck, you're being redirected. And when your consciousness begins aligning with quantum reality, when you start resonating with frequencies most people never touch, your old patterns begin to crack. Not because you're weak, but because you're evolving. This shift doesn't look glamorous at first. It often looks like confusion, fatigue, or feeling like you're behind. But that sensation, that quiet unraveling, is what every awakened soul experiences right before their breakthrough. What you're feeling is a signal. Quantum reality is not abstract. It's not some distant concept or mystical theory. It's the energetic architecture of your life. And right now, it's sending you a message, a very specific message. You're entering the vibrational corridor of change. Don't skip the shift. You might have noticed You're withdrawing from shallow conversations. You're craving silence more than noise. Your intuition is speaking louder than your logic. You sense the emotional truth behind people's words. You're starting to see patterns you used to overlook. These aren't coincidences, these are symptoms of alignment. When your consciousness synchronizes with quantum reality, you begin to recognize the signals the universe uses to guide you. Synchronicities become more frequent. Certain numbers appear over and over. Songs play at exact moments. A sentence from a stranger feels like it was meant for you. And messages like this cross your path at precisely the right time. The universe is not subtle. We are simply not trained to listen. But you're listening now, you're noticing. You're awakening. Why this sign showed up for you? People think signs appear randomly, as if the universe picks names out of a hat. But quantum reality doesn't work through chance. It works through resonance. Your emotional state, your frequency, your inner longing, your spiritual exhaustion, your desire for truth. All of it forms a vibrational signature. And that signature determines what messages reach you. You didn't find this sign, you summoned it. You magnetized it through your alignment. You were ready for a message that would hit deeper than motivation, deeper than spirituality, deeper than hope. A message that would reach the part of you you've been afraid to acknowledge. The part that knows something is changing. The part that knows you can't keep living in the old frequency. The part that knows something in your life is calling you to rise. And because you're aligned, even if just barely, the universe placed this sign directly in your path, not to inspire you, not to comfort you, but to activate you. This is your first confirmation. If you've been asking for clarity, if you've been asking for proof, if you've been asking for a sign, this is it. This is confirmation. This is the reminder your spirit has been waiting for. Life is not testing you because you're weak. Life is testing you because you're ready. You weren't brought here accidentally. No one arrives at a message like this by chance. Not when the timing aligns so perfectly with your internal shift. Tell me in the comments if you've ever felt this sensation or this strange knowing that something big is coming. You're here, still listening, still feeling something inside you respond to these words. And that alone tells me you're not just curious, you're awakening. Because when a person is aligned with quantum reality, their spirit knows when to stay. It knows when something is meant for them. It feels the energetic pull. And if your heart feels pulled right now, it's because the universe is trying to get your attention, perhaps more urgently than ever before. You see, when people reach this stage of awakening, life begins to rearrange itself. Not dramatically at first, not with fireworks or revelations. It happens quietly, subtly, like the way morning light slowly pushes away the darkness without ever making a sound, but you feel it. Somewhere deep, somewhere old, somewhere sacred. It's the recognition that your consciousness is no longer compatible with the life you've been living. The beginning of a spiritual realignment. There comes a moment, and almost every awakened soul goes through this, when you look around and realize that the people, the habits, the beliefs you once clung to no longer feel like home. It's not that you've outgrown them, it's that your soul has shifted into a frequency where they can't follow. This realignment often starts subtly. You begin losing interest in conversations that revolve around drama, fear, or ego. You feel restless in places that once felt comforting. You start craving depth, truth, silence, and authenticity. Even your body reacts differently. You can't tolerate environments that drain your energy. And the strange part? You may not be able to explain it to anyone, not because you don't want to, but because you can't. This transformation is happening on a level beyond language, beyond logic, beyond identity. It's happening in the field where consciousness meets quantum truth. And once this shift begins, you can't go back. Not because going back is wrong, but because your spirit refuses to shrink into a version of you that no longer exists. The dismantling of the old self. One of the hardest parts of awakening is that it doesn't start with clarity. It starts with dismantling. Before you rise or you unravel, before you gain purpose, you lose the life that kept you asleep. Before you feel powerful, you feel lost. People often mistake this phase for failure, depression, or emotional burnout. But energetically, what's happening is far more profound. You are shedding identities that were built on survival, not truth. For years, maybe decades, you've carried roles the world placed on you: caretaker, achiever, fixer, people pleaser, peacekeeper, overthinker, survivor. But these roles were born from a version of you that was trying to stay safe, not awakened. As your consciousness expands, the universe begins removing what no longer aligns, sometimes gently, sometimes forcefully. This can look like relationships fading without explanation, sudden changes in your career or direction, emotional waves that feel overwhelming, a deep urge to isolate, a loss of passion for what used to excite you. This is not destruction. This is spiritual pruning. The old branches must fall so the new ones can reach the light. The point of sacred discomfort. There's a specific moment in the awakening process, and maybe you're in it right now, when nothing makes sense anymore. You're not who you used to be, but you're not yet who you're becoming. This in-between space is sacred and uncomfortable, sometimes unbearably so. But here's the truth most people never hear. The discomfort is proof that the shift has begun. Your spirit is reorganizing itself. Your energy is recalibrating. Your frequency is rising. Your identity is dissolving, and every part of you that was built in fear begins to fall away. This is the moment the universe watches closely, because most people turn back here. They retreat to what feels familiar. They shrink into the old life simply because it's easier. But you're still here, listening, feeling, opening, which tells me something powerful. You're not here to retreat. You're here to awaken the quantum truth you've always known. Let's go deeper now, past the surface, past the story, past the noise. Quantum reality teaches a truth that ancient mystics, spiritual masters, and visionary thinkers like Bernard Heisch all point toward. Consciousness is not a product of the universe. Consciousness is the source of the universe. Your awareness is not inside your body. Your body is inside your awareness. Your life is not happening to you. Your life is responding to you. And every time you feel an intuitive pull, a strange knowing, a moment of synchronicity, a sign you can't logically justify, you're not imagining it. You're aligning with the deeper blueprint of your reality. This is why messages like this feel familiar. You've heard them before. It's not with your ears, but with your spirit. Because the moment your consciousness begins rising, the universe starts sending mirrors, signals, confirmations, like this one, right now, in this moment. Are you ready for the next shift? The universe isn't asking you to leap. It's asking you to listen. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to know where you're going. You don't have to pretend to be strong. You just have to be willing. Willing to release what drains you. Willing to trust what pulls you. willing to follow the quiet inner voice that always seems to know before you do. Because the next shift in your life, or the one you've been sensing, requires one thing above all: presence. Being awake enough to notice the signs, brave enough to follow them, aligned enough to receive them. And if you've made it this far, you're more aligned than you've ever realized. Emotional and direct. Don't just watch. Awaken with us. Subscribe now to Quantum Spirit and step fully into the shift your soul has been calling for. Your energy is changing, and that's not an accident. You've probably noticed your emotional sensitivity increasing. You pick up on energies faster. You can sense truth beneath the surface. You feel drained around the wrong people. You feel energized around the right ones. Your spirit is tuning itself like an antenna, moving into frequencies that reflect your higher path. This is why the universe brought you here today. Not for information, not for entertainment, but for activation. Tell me in the comments if you've felt these energetic changes lately. Your experience may help someone else waking up right now. You stay here, still breathing with the message, still allowing each word to settle into the places inside you that haven't been touched in years. And that tells me something profound. You're not just listening, you're remembering. Because awakening isn't about learning something new. It's about remembering what your soul has always known but your mind forgot. And right now, you're remembering at a speed your old self can barely keep up with. There's a moment in every spiritual awakening where the outside world begins to feel strangely distant, as if life is happening behind a thin veil. You move through your day, you do what needs to be done, you speak, you smile, you function. But there's a deeper awareness humming underneath it all. A quiet voice whispering, "Pay attention, something is shifting." And even if you can't describe it, you feel it. The air feels different. Time feels different. Your emotions rise and fall like tides pulled by a moon no one else can see. You're living two realities at once. The old one you were taught to trust, and the new one that feels more real than anything you've ever experienced. This is the stage most people never talk about. The stage where your consciousness expands faster than your life can rearrange itself. It feels like you're outgrowing your reality before you even understand what you're growing into. You look around your life, the job, the routines, the relationships, and it all feels strangely small. Not wrong, not bad, just misaligned. Like shoes half a size too tight. You can still wear them, but not without discomfort. Not without feeling that something isn't right anymore. And that discomfort, that pressure you keep feeling in your chest when you think about your future, that strange heaviness that hits you at night when everything goes quiet, that's not weakness, that's not confusion, that's not fear. It's your spirit pushing against the edges of the life you've outgrown. You're not breaking down, you're breaking open. People think awakening is a beautiful, glowing, peaceful process. They imagine meditation, clarity, light, serenity, but the truth is far more raw. Awakening doesn't start with light. It starts with friction. It starts with the collapse of what you thought you needed. It starts with the feeling that your life no longer fits the person you're becoming. And that's exactly where you are now. Your soul is no longer willing to operate in survival mode. It's no longer willing to stay silent. It's no longer willing to live through habit, fear, or duty. It wants authenticity. It wants alignment. It wants freedom. And the moment your spirit decides it's done pretending, your entire life feels like it's shifting beneath your feet. You might feel more emotional lately, more sensitive, more easily overwhelmed. You might wake up at night with a strange sense of urgency, like something is calling you, and you can't quite hear what it's saying. You might find yourself crying without knowing why, or feeling bursts of energy without understanding where they come from. This is all part of the recalibration. Your nervous system is adjusting to a new frequency. Your mind is learning to operate in the present moment instead of the past. Your intuition is stepping forward, asking to lead instead of follow. And you're noticing things you used to ignore. People's intentions, energetic imbalances, patterns that once blended into the background now feel obvious. Your spirit is sharpening, your awareness is widening, the veil is thinning. And once you see through it, truly see through it, you can't go back to sleep. Not even if you tried. Quantum alignment isn't a concept, it's an experience. It's the sensation of being pulled towards something invisible but undeniable. It's the feeling that life is reorganizing itself around you. Events line up. Opportunities appear. Certain people drift away while others enter your life at the perfect moment. Synchronicities multiply. Thoughts manifest faster. Your internal world becomes the blueprint of your external life. And every time you tune into that inner frequency, reality responds with startling clarity. You've felt it. A song that plays exactly when you need it. A thought that appears in someone else's mouth, a symbol or number that follows you across your days. These aren't random. This is your timeline shifting. This is the universe rearranging itself to match your new level of awareness. And the more aligned you become, the more these signs intensify, until ignoring them becomes impossible. But there's another side to awakening. A quieter side, a side almost no one admits. As your consciousness rises, the world you used to tolerate becomes heavier. Noise feels louder, crowds feel overwhelming, small talk feels draining. You crave solitude, not because you're withdrawing, but because your energy is refining itself. You're no longer able to scatter your presence. You protect it, you guard it. You treat it like something sacred, because it is. The truth is, you're not losing interest in the world. You're gaining interest in your soul. And the deeper you go, the more you realize how much of your life was built on autopilot. How many choices you made from fear instead of truth. How many versions of yourself you created to meet expectations instead of honoring your inner calling. Awakening destroys every false identity you've ever worn. Not to punish you, but to free you. And yet, despite the discomfort, despite the confusion, despite the uncertainty, there's something inside you that feels more alive than ever. Something vibrant, something ancient, something wise. It's the part of you that knows this shift is not a coincidence. It's not chaos. It's not instability. It's the moment your life finally begins aligning with who you were always meant to become. You're not here by accident. You didn't find these words by mistake. Something in you, something deeper than thought, called this message to you. And the fact that you're still here means you're not just aligned with the shift, you're ready to walk through it. Tell me in the comments if you've felt this inner unraveling, this quiet but unstoppable transformation moving through your life. You can feel it, can't you? That quiet vibration under everything, that subtle pull in your chest that tells you you're moving into a version of yourself you've never met before. It's strange how awakening works. You don't notice the moment it begins, but you absolutely feel the moment it becomes unstoppable, and you're in that moment now, the point of no return, the point where life is no longer asking you to change, it's requiring you to. What you're experiencing isn't random. It isn't moodiness, it isn't burnout, it isn't one of those phases. No, this is deeper, older, sacred. This is the unraveling of a lifetime of patterns, beliefs, emotional armor, and survival instincts that were never truly yours. It's the moment your spirit finally gets loud enough that your mind can't silence it anymore. There's something you need to hear. Not gently, not softly, but clearly. You are stepping out of a version of your life that was built for who you used to be, not who you are becoming. That's why everything feels strange. That's why your emotions feel amplified. That's why your intuition feels louder. That's why certain people no longer fit. That's why your soul keeps whispering, not this, not anymore. You're not losing stability, you're losing misalignment. Think about that for a moment. Think about what it really means. Your spirit would never pull you out of something unless something greater was waiting on the other side. But you can't carry your old life into your new frequency. Awakening requires weightlessness. It removes everything heavy, identities, relationships, expectations, until you're able to rise. And rising feels uncomfortable at first. Because when you grow spiritually, your life shrinks emotionally. Everything becomes too tight, too small, too scripted. You start noticing things you used to tolerate without question. The passive-aggressive comment that once slid by now stings like a warning. The friendships that were built on convenience now feel hollow. The job that paid the bills now feels like a cage. Even your own thoughts start echoing differently. You see the patterns you've repeated for years, the ways you kept yourself small, quiet, agreeable, hidden, and suddenly you can't do it anymore. Your soul refuses to go back into the box it has already stepped out of. This is what spiritual growth actually feels like. Not peace at first, but pressure. Not clarity at first, but chaos. Not expansion at first, but cracking. Because before you can become who you're meant to be, every false layer must fall away. And that's what's happening. All the coping mechanisms you built to survive are dissolving because you're beginning to live, not react. You're beginning to choose, not settle. You're beginning to awaken, not repeat. And awakening is messy. Beautiful, yes, but messy. Because the truth is, your soul is trying to lead you somewhere your mind has never been. And the mind resists what it cannot predict. It fights the unknown. It tries to cling to routine, even if that routine is suffocating. But your spirit doesn't care about comfort. It cares about truth. It cares about evolution. It cares about alignment. So right now, you're caught between two worlds. The world where you learn to survive, and the world where you're meant to thrive. This in-between space, the threshold, is one of the most powerful stages of awakening. It's where the old timeline loses its grip on you and the new timeline begins forming from your energy, your intention, your vibration. Every thought you think, every emotion you feel, every decision you make is shaping the direction your life is moving in. Nothing is random, not a single moment. If you've been feeling drained around certain people lately, it's because your energy no longer resonates with theirs. If you feel restless in places you once felt comfortable, it's because your spirit is done settling. If you've been craving solitude, it's because your soul is preparing you for deeper alignment. If your dreams feel more vivid, if your intuition feels sharper, if time feels strange, that's the quantum shift. That's your inner frequency recalibrating. And you're not imagining the signs, they're real. You've been seeing repeating numbers, feeling déjà vu, noticing synchronicities that show up too perfectly to dismiss as coincidence. This is life responding to your shift. Because when you awaken, reality awakens with you. Your energy creates ripples. Your consciousness bends possibilities. Your awareness reshapes outcomes. You are not a passive observer in your life. You are the field behind it, the frequency powering it, the consciousness animating it. And the universe recognizes when a soul is ready, truly ready, to rise. That's why you're here. That's why you found these words. That's why they feel less like a message and more like a memory of who you've always been beneath the armor, the roles, the expectations, and the survival patterns. This is your recalibration. This is your reawakening. This is your return to alignment, and you know it. You feel it in the way your heart beats differently when something resonates. You feel it in the tingles on your skin when truth touches you. You feel it in the emotion rising in your throat when you hear words your soul recognizes. You feel it in the way your intuition is becoming louder than your fears. You're not here to stay in the life you've outgrown. You're here to step into the one that's been waiting for you. Tell me in the comments if you've been feeling this transition, this strange mix of endings and beginnings unfolding inside you. You can feel the shift moving through you. Not all at once, not dramatically, but steadily, like a tide rising so quietly that you only realize how deep you've waded once the water reaches your chest. That's how awakening works. It doesn't knock on your door. It doesn't send a polite invitation. It rises inside you until ignoring it becomes impossible. And you right now are standing in that rising water. You're not the person you were a year ago, or even a month ago. Something in you is expanding, stretching, awakening in ways you can't fully explain, but you can't deny. There's a reason you've been feeling emotionally sensitive lately, a reason the smallest shifts in your environment affect you deeply, a reason your intuition has been speaking louder, sometimes louder than your logic is comfortable with. Your spirit is becoming finely tuned. You're sensing things beyond words, beyond thoughts, beyond the physical world. It's like you're developing new senses or remembering old ones. What you're experiencing is the thinning of the veil, the moment when the boundary between who you were and who you're becoming becomes almost transparent. You can see your old patterns clearly now. You can feel the heaviness of the life you once accepted without question. And the more aware you become, the less you can tolerate anything that pulls you out of alignment. That's why your patience has changed. That's why your tolerance has changed. That's why your energy feels different. You're not becoming sensitive, you're becoming accurate. When your consciousness expands, your entire being becomes attuned to truth. It can no longer accept half-lived days, half-spoken dreams, or half-hearted connections. It wants wholeness, it wants depth, it wants resonance. And anything that doesn't vibrate in the frequency of your new identity starts falling away, sometimes gently, sometimes abruptly, but always with purpose. You may have noticed relationships shifting, not because you're rejecting anyone, but because your spirit is quietly recalibrating. You're less interested in people who drain you. You're naturally pulling away from environments that feel heavy. You're craving conversations that nourish your soul, not ones that exhaust your energy. And that's not selfish. It's alignment. It's your spirit protecting your expansion. Growth creates distance. Not because you're superior, but because you're evolving. Some people will walk with you, others will stay behind. And that's okay. Your journey is not meant to fit everyone. Your evolution is not meant to be understood by those who remain attached to the version of you that existed before the shift. What's happening inside you is bigger than relationships, bigger than decisions, bigger than changes. You're entering the stage where your awareness expands faster than your external life can adjust. It's like growing spiritually into a new pair of invisible wings before you've learned how to fly with them. That's why things feel awkward. That's why you feel caught between certainty and confusion. That's why your spirit feels ahead of your life. You're being stretched, expanded, rewired. Your old emotional patterns are dissolving. Your old identity structures are softening. Your old fears are losing their grip. You're not the same. And that's not something to resist. It's something to honor. There's a truth people rarely talk about. Awakening requires loss. Not always the dramatic kind, but the subtle loss of who you were. And you can feel that loss even if you don't talk about it. You can feel the parts of yourself that are fading, the identities that no longer make sense, the versions of you that kept you safe but now hold you back. But here's what you need to know: you're not losing yourself. You're returning to yourself, the self beneath the conditioning, the self beneath the expectations, the self beneath the emotional armor you had to build to survive, the self that felt wild and intuitive and alive long before the world taught you to dim your light. That's why this process feels both painful and liberating. It hurts to shed what you've outgrown. It hurts to detach from what once felt familiar, but it feels liberating to finally breathe in alignment with your truth. It feels liberating to open your heart without fear choking it. It feels liberating to step into the life your soul has been quietly calling you toward. And yes, there's fear. Of course there is. The unknown always carries a tremble. But deep beneath that fear, there's a knowing, a quiet, steady pulse of certainty that says, this is the direction. Keep moving. And when your spirit speaks with that kind of clarity, it's not guidance, it's destiny. Life is rearranging itself around your evolution. You've felt it. The opportunities that suddenly appear, the people who show up at the perfect moment, the unexpected clarity, the emotional breakthroughs, the intuitive nudges that make too much sense to ignore. These are not coincidences, they are confirmations, they are signals, they are alignments. Reality responds to your vibration, and your vibration is rising. You're stepping into a higher timeline, a higher identity, a higher purpose. Your energy is becoming magnetic, your intuition is becoming precise, your inner world is becoming your compass. The shift is not coming, you're already in it. And the universe is watching how you respond, not to judge you, but to guide you. Every moment you choose truth over fear, alignment over habit, intuition over pressure, you accelerate your awakening. You don't need to force anything. You don't need to rush anything. You just need to stay open, present, receptive, because the life that's forming around you is more aligned, more authentic, and more meaningful than anything you've experienced so far. Tell me in the comments if you can feel these changes happening inside you. Your experience may be exactly what someone else needs to read today. Something inside you is opening wider now, more than before, more than you've allowed in years. You can feel it. That gentle but undeniable expansion in your chest, that subtle warmth in your awareness, that sense that these words aren't just words. They're echoes of something you've always known. You're not just reading, you're remembering. And every sentence pulls you deeper into the truth you've been circling your entire life. You've reached a point in your awakening where the old world feels almost unreal. You go through your daily routines, you interact with people, you handle responsibilities, but something feels distant, like you're watching life through a window instead of standing inside it. This isn't dissociation, it's not detachment. It's the moment when your spirit begins stepping outside the identity your mind created. You're observing yourself from a higher vantage point, and that's one of the clearest signs that your consciousness is expanding. There's a version of you, a deeper version, that's finally stepping forward. and you can feel it. You can feel the old patterns dissolving. You can feel the old fears losing their grip. You can feel your heart softening, opening, awakening. For the first time in a long time, you're not running from your truth. You're turning toward it. And that shift changes everything. Your soul is preparing you for a life that matches your frequency. That's why you've lost interest in superficial conversations. That's why you crave meaning more than noise. That's why you're drawn to messages like this. Messages that speak to the part of you that has always existed beyond time, beyond identity, beyond the body. You're stepping into coherence. You're stepping into alignment. You're stepping into energetic truth. And energetic truth doesn't care about convenience. It doesn't care about expectations. It doesn't care about who you were told to be. It reveals who you are. Sometimes that revelation feels like a quiet earthquake inside your chest. Not destructive, but rearranging, a shift in your inner gravity. You may have noticed that your intuition no longer whispers, it speaks. Clearer, more urgently, more directly. You feel the truth of things instantly, even before you understand them logically. You sense the energy behind people's words. You feel the direction of conversations before they happen. You pick up subtle emotional signals without trying. You've become more aware, more attuned, more awake. Well, that's not imagination, that's evolution. Your nervous system is tuning itself to a higher frequency. Your consciousness is expanding beyond the limitations of your past. Your heart is reconnecting to the universal field that's been guiding you your entire life. And because of that, you're becoming more sensitive to what disrupts your alignment. People who drain you feel heavier. Environments that once felt fine now feel suffocating. Conversations that revolve around negativity feel intolerable. This isn't you becoming dramatic or emotional. This is you becoming aware of energetic truth. Your spirit is simply saying, this doesn't match who I am anymore. As your vibration rises, everything misaligned becomes louder. Not to punish you, but to guide you. You're being shown what needs to fall away, so the next version of your life can enter without resistance. But this stage right here, is one of the hardest because you're standing between two worlds, the life you've outgrown and the life that hasn't fully revealed itself yet. You can feel the pull of the new timeline, but you can still hear the echoes of the old one. And those echoes try to convince you to stay small, stay safe, stay predictable. But your soul doesn't want predictable. Your soul wants expansive. It wants authentic. It wants aligned. It wants the life that was meant for you, not the one you were conditioned to accept. There's a specific kind of loneliness that comes with awakening, not because you're isolated, but because you're transforming faster than the people around you. You see things they don't see yet. You feel things they're not ready to feel. You understand things they're not ready to understand. You're speaking a language their spirits recognize, but their minds reject. And that can make you feel misunderstood. It can make you feel like you're walking through life in a dimension slightly above the one everyone else is living in. But hear this clearly. That loneliness is temporary. The universe never removes without replacing. And it never replaces with less. New energy is coming. New relationships, new opportunities, new clarity, new versions of yourself that feel like coming home. You may feel like you're losing pieces of your old life, but what you're actually losing are the limitations that kept you from seeing who you truly are. The universe isn't taking anything from you, it's making space, and the space being created in your life right now, that space is sacred. It's where your next chapter will grow. It's where your new timeline will anchor. It's where alignment will take form. You don't need to push. You don't need to chase. You don't need to force. You only need to surrender to what your spirit already knows. You are outgrowing the life that was built to keep you safe, so you can step into the life that was built to help you rise. Let yourself rise. Let yourself expand. Let yourself stretch beyond the identity that no longer fits you. There is nothing wrong with you. Nothing is breaking. Nothing is failing. You are transforming. And transformation always feels like chaos before it feels like clarity. You're shedding the weight of your past. You're releasing old identities. You're stepping into a version of yourself that breathes differently, sees differently, chooses differently. You are not becoming someone new. You are returning to someone ancient, someone powerful, someone true. The version of you that existed before fear shaped your decisions, before doubt shaped your voice, before pain shaped your boundaries. Tell me in the comments if you feel this soft collapse of the old self, this quiet emergence of the new one. You can feel the shift settling deeper now, not as a spark, not as a moment, but as a current running through everything you are. It's in the way you breathe, the way you think, the way you move through your day. It's subtle but undeniable, like a door inside you is opened, and even though you can't see what's on the other side yet, you know you'll never be able to close it again. That's the thing about awakening. Once you see truth, you can't unsee it. Once you feel alignment, misalignment becomes unbearable. Once your spirit rises, your old life becomes too small to contain you. Your inner world is expanding faster than your outer world can adjust. And that creates this strange, dreamlike tension, as if you're living in two realities at once. One foot in who you were, one foot in who you're becoming. One moment feeling grounded, the next moment feeling like you're floating above your own life. This isn't instability, it's transition. The space between chapters. The moment the universe exhales before delivering what comes next. Your emotions may feel unpredictable right now, waves that rise and fall without warning. One moment you feel hopeful, clear, strong. The next you feel heavy, tired, sensitive. Don't mistake this for weakness. Emotional intensity is a sign that your consciousness is reorganizing itself. You are releasing layers of old energy you've carried for years, energy that belonged to identities you no longer inhabit. It takes strength to feel this deeply. It takes courage to transform. And whether you realize it or not, you're showing that courage every day. You're not breaking down. You're breaking open. The life you're stepping toward requires a version of you that is honest, awake, aligned, and emotionally alive. And to get there, the universe must remove anything that keeps you chained to an outdated identity. That's why old wounds are resurfacing. Not to hurt you, but to free you. That's why you're suddenly remembering moments you thought you'd forgotten. Not to overwhelm you, but to cleanse you. That's why unresolved emotions are rising to the surface. Not to destabilize you, but to prepare you. This is your emotional detox, the clearing of everything you suppressed to survive, the pain you never processed, the disappointments you buried, the versions of yourself you hid because you believed they were unworthy. They're not coming back to punish you. They're coming back because they can no longer live inside you. Not at this frequency, not in this new timeline. Your soul is making room. And the more space you create within, the more the universe can bring into your life without. This is why so many awakened individuals feel like their lives are falling apart right before everything finally falls into place. But you're not falling apart. You're shedding. You're releasing the density that prevented you from rising. Every tear is clearing your pathway. Every intuition is guiding your direction. Every moment of stillness is tuning your vibration. If you've felt disconnected from people lately, it's because your spirit is stepping into a wavelength where only certain souls can follow. Not everyone can walk with you into this next chapter. Not everyone is meant to understand you. Some connections are seasonal. Some relationships were bridges, not destinations. You're not losing people, you're making space for soul-aligned ones. The kind that feel like recognition, the kind that feel like home. And yes, it can feel lonely. But loneliness during awakening isn't emptiness. It's recalibration. It's your energy detaching from everything that no longer matches your frequency. It's the silence before the symphony, the clearing before the arrival. You're not alone. You're being prepared. Your intuition has been louder recently, guiding you, nudging you, warning you, inspiring you. You may not trust it fully yet, but you feel it growing stronger. That's because the more aligned you become, the more your inner guidance takes the lead. Intuition is the language of the quantum field. It's how your future self communicates with the present version of you. It's not random, it's not guesswork, it's resonance. Every moment you felt a sudden knowing, every time your heart whispered yes or no, every instinct you've ignored or followed, those were all pieces of your higher timeline trying to guide you. And now the guidance is becoming clearer, sharper, undeniable. You're beginning to see patterns behind the events in your life. You're beginning to understand why certain things had to end. You're beginning to feel why certain things are beginning now. Nothing is accidental. Nothing is wasted. Every moment of your journey has been leading you to this awakening. Even the painful ones, especially the painful ones. Think about that. The moments that broke you were actually aligning you. The moments that hurt you were shaping you. The moments where you thought you were lost were the moments your soul was turning you toward your true path. You weren't abandoned. You were being redirected. And now, you're in the doorway of something extraordinary. You can feel it. The familiar no longer feels safe. The unknown no longer feels threatening. You're beginning to trust the pull instead of resisting it. You don't need to know where the path leads to know it's meant for you. That feeling in your chest, that quiet inner certainty, is your confirmation. You're not chasing anything anymore. You're allowing. And that shift from forcing to flowing is one of the strongest signs that you're aligned with quantum reality. Because when you stop resisting, life starts responding. When you stop gripping tightly, the universe places what you need in your hands. When you stop shrinking, your energy becomes magnetic. Everything you're seeking is already seeking you. Everything you desire is already aligned with your timeline. Everything you need is already forming in the field around you. Your only job now is to stay open, stay present, stay willing. You are not here to repeat the past. You are here to rewrite your reality. You are here to rise into the life that matches your spirit, not your fears. Tell me in the comments if you can feel this expansion happening inside you, like your soul is preparing for something you can't yet explain. You're entering the deepest part of the shift now, the stage where everything inside you starts aligning faster than your mind can logically understand. You can feel it even as you read this. That quiet hum inside your chest, that sense that you're being pulled forward by something invisible but unmistakably real. It's not excitement, it's not fear, it's something older, something wiser, something that feels like destiny stirring beneath your ribs. This is where the old self stops negotiating. This is where the new self stops waiting. This is where the transformation becomes irreversible. You may have noticed lately that you're remembering pieces of yourself you forgot you had. Random childhood memories, old dreams, feelings you haven't felt in decades. They're resurfacing not by accident but by design. When you awaken, your consciousness retrieves the parts of you that you abandoned while trying to fit into a world that was never aligned with who you truly are. Those old memories, those forgotten desires, those little sparks of joy, they're fragments of your original blueprint. The blueprint you're returning to. You didn't lose your soul. You just buried it under survival. And now the universe is unearthing it. You're also becoming hyper-aware of your emotional patterns. Not because you're overthinking, but because you're finally seeing the truth beneath them. You notice when you shrink. You notice when you dim your light. You notice when you silence your intuition to make someone else comfortable. Awakening brings brutal clarity. You begin to see every place where you abandoned yourself. But instead of judging yourself, you're learning to reclaim yourself, piece by piece, breath by breath. This is the sacred rebuilding. You're not just awakening, you're reconstructing your relationship with yourself. You're learning to trust your inner voice after years of ignoring it. You're learning to set boundaries after years of saying yes out of fear. You're learning to choose peace over approval. And with each choice, you feel your spirit return to its rightful place at the center of your life. And something else is happening too, something subtle but powerful. You're beginning to detach from outcomes. You don't obsess over how anymore. You're less attached to timelines. You're less desperate for control. You're learning to move with life instead of against it. That's because control is a mechanism of fear, but flow is a mechanism of alignment. When you surrender the need to control everything, you open the door to the life that was meant for you, not the one you constructed from fear. You're beginning to trust the invisible architecture of your reality. You're beginning to trust the signs, the synchronicities, the intuitive nudges, the small, quiet yes that comes from your chest, not your mind. This isn't blind faith. This is resonance. This is coherence. This is quantum alignment. And with alignment comes clarity. Not loud, not dramatic, but soft and unmistakable. You start seeing what's meant for you with gentle certainty. You notice which paths feel expansive and which feel heavy. You notice which relationships nourish your spirit and which drain your energy. You notice what your heart opens for and what it closes against. You notice what feels like truth and what feels like noise. You're no longer choosing from fear, you're choosing from frequency. Your reality is beginning to reflect this. Conversations feel different, your thoughts feel different, your days feel different, you feel different. Even your body is responding, craving rest, craving stillness, craving presence. Your nervous system is recalibrating to hold more light, more awareness, more intuition. That's why you might feel exhausted some days and electrified on others. You're not unstable, you're upgrading. And upgrades aren't smooth, they're powerful. Sometimes you'll feel like you're moving backward, you're not. You're integrating. Sometimes emotions will rise from nowhere, they're releasing. Sometimes you'll feel lost, but only because your spirit has stepped ahead of your mind. Your consciousness is leading now, not your fear. And this is where the magic begins. The shift from internal awakening to external alignment. You may have started noticing people showing up in your life who feel strangely familiar. Opportunities unfolding without effort. Moments that feel too perfectly timed to be random. Sudden clarity about things that confused you for years. These are not coincidences, these are calibrations. The universe responds instantly when your energy matches your truth. It withdraws what is misaligned. It amplifies what is meant for you. It speeds up the timelines that align with your soul. It slows down the ones that distract you. Reality itself begins reorganizing around your frequency. And your frequency right now is rising. This rise can feel like restlessness, like impatience, like you're waiting for something just beyond the horizon. That feeling isn't anxiety, it's intuition. It's the sense of something forming, something approaching, something aligning in the unseen. Your future self is calling you forward, and your spirit recognizes the sound before your mind does. You're not imagining it, you're tuning into it. There's a chapter forming ahead of you that vibrates at the same frequency your soul has been trying to reach your entire life. A chapter that feels like relief, like clarity, like coming home. And though you can't see it yet, you can feel the gravity of it pulling you forward. Stay open, stay aware, stay connected to that inner pulse. Your life is not falling apart, it's falling into place. Tell me in the comments if you've been feeling this pull towards something lately. That subtle but powerful knowing that something in your timeline is shifting. You're walking deeper into yourself now, deeper into the place where truth lives unfiltered, untouched, unchanged by the world. And you can feel it. It's subtle but powerful awareness that something inside you has shifted permanently. Not a temporary insight, not a fleeting moment of inspiration, a transformation, a restructuring, a reorientation of your entire being. It's like your inner compass has finally realigned after years of spinning. And now, even if you don't know the exact path ahead, you know the direction. You can feel it in your bones. You can feel it in the way your heart responds to certain thoughts, certain possibilities, certain visions of who you could become. That feeling, that pull, is the frequency of your new timeline calling you forward. Lately, you might have noticed yourself thinking differently. The questions you ask yourself are changing. You're no longer wondering, what should I do? Instead, you're wondering, what feels aligned? You're no longer asking, what will people think? But what does my soul need? This shift in your internal language is one of the clearest signs that you're stepping into your higher identity. Spiritual evolution begins with the mind, but transformation begins with the questions the heart starts asking. You've also begun letting go, sometimes without even meaning to. Old attachments are dissolving. Old obsessions no longer hold power. Old triggers feel different. You might not be reacting the way you once did. Things that used to destabilize you now feel distant, almost irrelevant. You're realizing that not every battle is worth fighting, especially the ones that drain your spirit. This isn't numbness, it's clarity, it's discernment, it's energetic wisdom, because as your frequency rises, you lose the desire to invest in anything that pulls you out of alignment. You start valuing your peace more than your patterns, your future more than your history, your truth more than your expectations. And that shift, that quiet prioritizing of your spirit, is what opens the door to the life you've been sensing but haven't yet stepped into. You may have felt waves of grief too, not grief tied to one specific event, but a strange, heavy sadness that comes and goes. This is something almost every awakened soul experiences. It's the grief of releasing a lifetime of versions of yourself, the grief of letting go of identities that kept you safe but small, the grief of shedding beliefs that once gave you meaning but now limit your expansion. You're not grieving loss, you're grieving evolution, and that's sacred. It means your spirit is acknowledging where you've been, honoring the journey, and making space for who you're becoming. You can't rise without releasing what kept you grounded. And sometimes that release feels like heartbreak, even when it's healthy. But alongside that grief, there's something else awakening in you. Something powerful, something undeniable. A sense of inner strength you didn't have before. It's subtle, but it's there. You might feel more anchored, more aware, more steady in the face of uncertainty. This is the beginning of spiritual confidence, the quiet knowing that no matter what changes around you, you are guided, supported, and aligned. You're also experiencing more moments of intuition that feel like lightning flashes. Sudden clarity, sudden understanding, sudden knowing. You think of someone and they message you. You sense a shift before it happens. You feel the emotional truth of a situation without needing evidence. Your awareness is expanding beyond the physical world into the energetic one, and that sensitivity is not a burden. It's a gift. It's the language of your higher consciousness. And with this rising awareness comes something even deeper, the sense that your life is preparing for its next chapter. You can't describe it, but you can feel it. You feel the pressure building, the alignment forming, the energy gathering around you. Something is coming. Not something to fear, but something to step into, something that matches who you are becoming, not who you were. This is the energetic build-up that precedes major shifts in your reality. It's the moment before the breakthrough, the inhale before the transformation, the gathering of momentum before the leap. And the universe is watching how you respond, not because you're being tested, but because you're being prepared. The decisions you make now, the boundaries you set now, the truths you embrace now, these will determine the frequency of the path ahead. You're learning to choose alignment over approval, your future self over your past habits, expansion over comfort, truth over convenience. And every time you choose from truth instead of fear, the universe rearranges itself to reflect your new vibration. That's why synchronicities feel stronger now. That's why your manifestations are shaping faster. That's why clarity comes in sudden waves. Your energy is coherent. Your frequency is focused. Your spirit is leading. And when your spirit leads, life follows. Soon, very soon, you're going to look back at this exact moment and realize this was the turning point. The moment when you stopped resisting and started allowing. The moment when you stopped searching for direction and started following your own inner guidance. The moment when you stepped out of the old frequency and into the timeline your soul has been whispering to you for years. You are not at the beginning of your awakening, you are in the rise, in the unfolding, in the alignment, and everything that's happening inside you is preparing you for the life that's waiting just beyond the edge of your current awareness. Tell me in the comments if you can feel this internal rise or that sense that something inside you has awakened and there's no turning back. You can feel the shift anchoring itself now. No longer a whisper, no longer a flicker, but a steady, undeniable presence moving through every layer of your being. It's like something inside you has finally clicked into place, a quiet but powerful alignment that feels less like a discovery and more like a return to clarity, a return to truth, a return to the version of you that has been waiting beneath the surface all along. You're not just awakening anymore, you're embodying. This is the stage of the journey where your inner world begins to influence your outer world in ways that feel almost surreal. You think of a possibility and suddenly it feels closer. You imagine a new direction and opportunities start appearing. You speak your truth and the world around you responds differently. You're starting to see how deeply connected your energy is to the reality you experience. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. There's a new awareness rising in you, the kind that feels like both a blessing and a responsibility. You're realizing that your thoughts carry weight, your emotions carry frequency, and your intentions carry direction. You're beginning to understand that your life is not happening to you. It's reflecting you. And when you shift internally, everything around you begins to reorganize. You've probably been sensing this already. The conversations that suddenly feel more meaningful, the opportunities that show up without effort, the doors that close without drama, the relationships that feel lighter or heavier, the internal nudges that feel more accurate. This is you moving into energetic coherence, where your inner truth and outer reality begin to match. But coherence doesn't come quietly. It arrives with clarity, and clarity often demands change. You might find yourself standing in situations that used to feel comfortable, but now feel undeniably too small. You might feel restless in routines that once felt safe. You might feel a deep urge to step into something new, even if you can't explain why. This is your spirit prompting you to expand. Expansion doesn't wait for perfect conditions, it waits for readiness. And you're ready now in a way you haven't been before. What's happening inside you is bigger than emotion, bigger than thought, bigger than desire. It's evolution. It's the emergence of your higher identity. The version of you that doesn't shrink, doesn't settle, doesn't silence their intuition just to fit into a life they've outgrown. You're beginning to trust yourself on a level you never have before. Not because everything is clear, but because you are becoming clear. You're no longer chasing certainty. You're tuning into resonance. And resonance never lies. It speaks through feeling, through intuition, through the soft but unmistakable sense of this is the direction. You're learning to follow that signal, even when the path doesn't make logical sense yet. Because logic is the language of the mind, but alignment is the language of the soul. And your soul is speaking louder than it ever has. You may have noticed moments of deep stillness lately. Pauses that feel sacred, as if time itself slows just long enough for you to hear something beneath the noise. These moments are not accidental. They're windows, openings, invitations to step out of your old identity and into a higher level of awareness. In these moments, you might feel a presence, not external, but internal. A feeling of being guided, supported, directed, as if something inside you is gently steering you toward a future that already knows your name. That feeling is your intuition merging with your higher consciousness. And with that merge comes a profound shift. You no longer feel the need to fight for what's meant for you. You simply recognize it. You feel its frequency. You sense its alignment. The path forward becomes less about force and more about flow. You stop trying to control every detail. You stop overthinking every step. You stop gripping so tightly to outcomes. Instead, you lean into a deeper trust. Not blind trust, but intuitive trust. Trust that what feels aligned will unfold. Trust that what's leaving your life is making space. Trust that what's coming is on a frequency that matches who you're becoming. And because of this trust, something else changes. You stop settling. Not out of arrogance, but out of awareness. You stop accepting relationships that drain you. You stop saying yes when you mean no. You stop participating in conversations rooted in fear or negativity. You stop betraying your own needs just to keep the peace. Your energy becomes sacred to you. And that is one of the most powerful signs of awakening. As you rise, you'll feel a shift in what you tolerate. And that shift isn't ego, it's evolution. It's the understanding that your frequency cannot remain in places your soul has already left. And with every step toward alignment, the universe responds. Synchronicities intensify. Intuition sharpens, clarity deepens, the right people show up, the wrong ones fade away. Your reality becomes a reflection of your inner elevation. And yet, even with all these changes, there's still a quiet mystery surrounding your next chapter. and that's exactly how it's supposed to be. Awakening doesn't reveal the entire path at once. It reveals the next step, and then the next, and then the next. You're guided moment by moment, alignment by alignment, intuition by intuition. You're not meant to know everything. You're meant to follow the frequency. You're meant to trust the pull. You're meant to listen to the subtle guidance that speaks through feeling more than words. Because what you're moving toward is not merely a change in circumstance, it's a change in consciousness. And consciousness always expands before life does. You're becoming the version of yourself who can hold the blessings, opportunities, love, and purpose that your future carries. And the universe will not deliver anything to a version of you that isn't ready to sustain it. That's why the inner shift always comes first. And that's what you're in right now, the rise, the expansion, the becoming. Tell me in the comments if you feel this quiet readiness, this sense that your life is preparing to match the person you're becoming. You can feel it now, not just as a shift, not just as an awakening, but as a becoming, a settling of truth into your bones, a remembering that vibrates deeper than thought. Every day, every hour, every breath has been pulling you toward this moment where your inner and outer worlds finally begin to touch, where the person you're becoming starts appearing in the life you're creating. And maybe you've noticed your mind is quieter now, even if your emotions are louder. Your intuition is sharper, even if your path is uncertain. Your heart is softer, even if your boundaries are firmer. This is the paradox of awakening. You become stronger by becoming gentler. You become clearer by becoming quieter. You become more powerful by becoming more present. And presence is exactly what's happening inside you now. There's a depth to your awareness that wasn't there before. You can feel the difference in the way you wake up, the way you move through your routines, the way you look at the world. There's a subtle glow in your perception, a sense that everything you experience has meaning, purpose, a hidden intelligence guiding it. You're not imagining that. It's coherence, it's alignment, it's the merging of your inner field with the quantum field around you. You're beginning to see that nothing in your life is random, that your heartbreaks, your delays, your endings, your breakthroughs, all of it was preparing you to hold the frequency you're stepping into now. You had to break the old patterns. You had to outgrow the old identity. You had to walk through the shadows to understand your own light. And now the universe is opening in front of you because you can finally see it. You're beginning to feel the difference between your mind's desires and your soul's direction. Your mind wants safety, predictability, familiarity. But your soul, it wants truth. It wants expansion. It wants to live in a way that honors the deepest parts of who you are. And now that you've tasted that truth, even for a moment, you can't go back to the life you once settled for. Your spirit won't allow it. You've probably been sensing certain choices becoming clearer, not logically, but emotionally. Some paths simply don't feel aligned anymore. Some opportunities no longer spark anything inside you. Some connections feel unfinished, while others feel complete. And what's interesting is that you're not forcing anything. You're simply noticing what resonates and what doesn't. You're following the pull instead of the pressure. This is the stage where your soul takes the lead and your mind becomes the observer. It's the stage where you begin to trust the invisible more than the visible, where you follow intuition before evidence, where you listen to the subtle yes and the quiet no, where the unseen feels more real than the seen. And it's not fantasy, it's energetic accuracy. Your consciousness has reached a point where it can perceive the patterns beneath events, the truth beneath words, the energy beneath interactions. You can feel when something is meant for you, not because of logic, but because your entire being responds to it. And just as powerfully, you can feel when something is not meant for you. Your body tightens, your chest closes, your energy drops, your intuition whispers, no. You used to ignore these signals. Now they're impossible to silence. This is guidance. This is protection. This is alignment doing what alignment does, redirecting you. You may also feel a rising desire for more, not more things, but more meaning, more presence, more truth, more connection, more authenticity, more of what makes your spirit feel awake instead of numb. You're no longer satisfied with surface-level living. You want depth, you want resonance, you want to live from the core, not from the mask. And you're closer to that life than you realize. Something inside you has shifted from hoping to knowing. You no longer wonder if you're meant for more, you feel it. You no longer question whether the universe supports you. You see the signs. You no longer fear the unknown. You're learning to trust it. Because the unknown isn't empty, it's full of every version of you that you haven't stepped into yet. And you're stepping now. You're beginning to move differently. Your decisions come from alignment, not obligation. Your boundaries come from self-worth, not fear. Your desires come from purpose, not emptiness. Your energy comes from truth, not exhaustion. You're becoming the version of you who can hold the life you've been sensing, the life that's been forming quietly behind the scenes, waiting for you to rise to its frequency. And that rise is happening now. This next phase of your journey is all about embodiment. Not thinking about who you want to become, but living as if you already are. Because your energy doesn't shift when your life changes. Your life shifts when your energy changes, and your energy has already changed. That's why you feel the pull. That's why you feel the pressure. That's why you feel the anticipation building in your chest, like something is approaching, something aligned, something meant for you. You're not imagining it, you're sensing it, you're tuning into it, you're matching its frequency long before it arrives physically. This is how manifestation truly works, not through force, not through repetition, but through coherence, through becoming internally what you want externally. And you are becoming every day, every moment. Your old self is dissolving, your new self is crystallizing, your future is preparing to meet you. Tell me in the comments if you've felt this mysterious anticipation, this sense that something in your life is about to shift in a profound and undeniable way. You can feel it now, not just as possibility, not just as intuition, but as certainty. Something inside you is preparing, aligning, gathering momentum. It's like your entire being is standing on the threshold of a new reality, sensing the shift before it becomes physical, feeling the gravity of something you can't yet name but deeply recognize. This is the moment in awakening where your spirit becomes louder than your history, where your future becomes louder than your fears, where your truth becomes louder than your conditioning. You're no longer the person who needed proof. You're no longer the person who doubted every sign. You're no longer the person who questioned their own intuition. You've crossed that line. Quietly, softly, but undeniably. And now something extraordinary is happening. Your energy is beginning to lead the way. You're not forcing anything, yet things are moving. You're not chasing anything, yet things are aligning. You're not begging the universe for direction, yet clarity keeps arriving. This is the frequency of someone who has stepped into resonance. Someone who is no longer trying to be ready because they are ready. Someone who no longer needs to push because they've finally learned how to allow. This is the stage where the universe stops whispering and starts responding, because your vibration has reached a point where it's unmistakable. You're not living in the old timeline anymore. You're not living from your past identity. You're not living from fear, scarcity, or survival. You're living from awareness, from intuition, from alignment. And alignment changes everything. You're beginning to see how every event in your life has been part of a larger orchestration, not random, not accidental, but precise. Even the things that hurt you, even the things that broke you, even the things that forced you to let go, they weren't punishments, they were calibrations. They were removing what couldn't follow you into this new frequency. You had to lose your way a little to find your path. You had to break open to let the light in. You had to be emptied to be refilled with truth. And now, you're stepping into the part of your journey where the pieces begin to come together. The confusion is turning into clarity. The heaviness is turning into lightness. The questions are turning into knowing. The waiting is turning into movement. You're not behind, you're not lost, you're not late, you're right on time. Exactly where you need to be, exactly who you need to be. And because you're aligned, you're starting to see signs everywhere. Not vague coincidences, but direct confirmations, repeating numbers, dreams that feel more like messages, people saying things that match thoughts you haven't spoken out loud, opportunities appearing out of nowhere, sudden clarity that feels like it was dropped into your mind. This is the quantum field reflecting your energy back to you. This is consciousness shaping reality. This is you becoming the architect of your life. And with that shift comes something else, something you're already feeling. Your tolerance for anything misaligned is dropping to zero. People who drain your energy feel heavier than ever. Situations that pull you backward feel unbearable. Patterns that once felt normal now feel suffocating. Environments that used to fit now feel too small. This isn't you becoming impatient. This is you becoming precise. Your soul is no longer willing to compromise. Your energy is no longer willing to bend. Your intuition is no longer willing to stay quiet. You're becoming the version of yourself who knows exactly what they want. Not because they're controlling, but because they're listening. Listening to the subtle pulls. Listening to the quiet yes. Listening to the intuitive whispers that feel truer than logic. And as you listen, something incredible begins to dawn on you. You're not waiting for your new life to begin. You're already inside it. You're already shifting into it. You're already living from its frequency. The outer reality just hasn't caught up yet. But it will. It always does. Because physical reality is slow. Energy is fast. And your energy is way ahead. What you feel approaching, what you sense forming, what you intuitively know is coming. It's real, it's aligned, it's for you, and the universe will deliver it the moment your inner coherence matches its frequency completely. You're closer than you think, closer than you've ever been, closer than your old self could have imagined. This is the part of the journey where your spirit begins to guide you through instinct, through intuition, through energy, and you start trusting it, not because you have proof, but because you are the proof. Your transformation is no longer internal, it's becoming visible, it's becoming embodied, it's becoming inevitable. Tell me in the comments if you feel this unstoppable rise, this sense that your spirit has taken the lead and your life is rearranging itself around who you're becoming. You can feel it now, not just emotionally, not just spiritually, but physically. Your body is responding to your awakening in ways you can't fully explain. Your chest feels lighter some days, heavier on others. Your breath deepens without effort. Your senses feel sharper. You notice details you used to overlook. You feel the energy in a room the moment you walk in. You pick up on truth before anyone speaks. This isn't sensitivity. This is alignment. This is your nervous system adjusting to a higher frequency. This is your consciousness expanding beyond the limits you once accepted as normal. You're not becoming fragile. You're becoming aware. You're not becoming emotional. You're becoming connected. You're not becoming distant. You're becoming selective. The deeper you go into this shift, the more you realize how much you used to tolerate. How many moments you swallowed your truth. How many situations you endured because you didn't want to disrupt the peace, even when you were sacrificing your own. How many versions of yourself you carried just to be understood, accepted, or valued. But that version of you is dissolving. Not slowly, but consistently. Not painfully, but truthfully. Because awakening isn't about becoming a new person. It's about removing everything you're not. And you are in the exact phase where the shedding becomes undeniable. You're shedding doubt. You're shedding fear. You're shedding guilt you never deserved to carry. You're shedding the need for external validation. You're shedding the pressure to live a life that doesn't feel authentic. Your spirit is clearing space, preparing you for a version of yourself that vibrates with purpose, depth, clarity, and truth. And as you shed, you're also remembering. You're remembering the parts of yourself you buried when the world felt too loud. You're remembering the dreams you silenced because they felt too big. You're remembering the intuition you ignored because logic seemed safer. You're remembering the strength you forgot you had. You're remembering the calling you tried to rationalize away. And with every memory, you rise a little higher. There is a point in awakening where you suddenly recognize the difference between who you were told to be and who you truly are. That point, that moment of internal recognition, is one of the most powerful shifts in consciousness a person can experience. And you're in it now. You can feel the gap widening between your old identity and your emerging one. The old self feels heavy. The new self feels inevitable. Your system is choosing. Your energy is choosing. Your intuition is choosing. And it's choosing expansion. This may be why you've been feeling bursts of motivation out of nowhere, followed by periods of deep rest. It's why some days you feel unstoppable, and others you feel like withdrawing from everything. This isn't inconsistency, it's integration. You're recalibrating, balancing the rapidly rising energy within you with the human body that's learning to hold it. Your heart is healing, your mind is clearing, your soul is leading, and your body is catching up. You may also notice your relationship with time shifting. The days feel faster, certain moments feel suspended. Some memories feel like lifetimes ago, even if they happened recently. This happens when you step out of your old timeline and begin aligning with a new one. Time becomes fluid. You start experiencing life from a higher state of awareness, more present, more intuitive, more connected. And along with this shift comes something even deeper. Your inner voice is getting louder. Not the voice of fear, not the voice of conditioning, not the voice of doubt, the voice beneath all that, the one that's always been there, the one that whispers instead of shouts, the one that feels like home. That voice is guiding you now. It's not asking you to leap, just to listen, not asking you to know, just to trust, not asking you to force, just to allow. You're becoming receptive, you're becoming attuned, you're becoming aligned with the life that matches your spirit's frequency. And because of that, the universe is beginning to reveal the next steps, in signs, in synchronicities, in moments that feel too meaningful to be chance. Pay attention to those subtle pulls. Pay attention to the ideas that keep returning. Pay attention to the opportunities that feel like déjà vu. Pay attention to the people who feel familiar, even if you've just met. Nothing is random at this stage, nothing. You're not walking in circles anymore, you're walking in alignment. You're not repeating lessons, you're graduating from them. You're not guessing your direction, you're following resonance. You're stepping into the phase where life begins to meet you exactly where you are. Not behind you, not ahead of you, but here, now, aligned. What you feel approaching is real. What you feel forming is intentional. What you feel pulling you forward is your future self guiding you. Tell me in the comments if you feel this gathering of energy, this quiet preparation, this sense that the next chapter of your life is about to unfold in a way that feels divinely timed. You can feel it now, like a quiet current rushing beneath your skin, like something inside you is preparing to take form. It's not anxiety, it's not restlessness, it's anticipation. A deep, soul-level anticipation that tells you you're approaching a moment where your inner reality and your outer world finally collide. It's the moment before alignment becomes visible, the moment before the shift becomes physical, the moment before your life catches up to your consciousness. You're not imagining this, you're not overthinking. What you're feeling is the energetic pressure of a timeline that's ready to materialize. The more your awareness expands, the more you begin to realize that nothing in your life was random, that every person, every season, every heartbreak, every breakthrough was leading you to this exact moment of clarity. And now that you see the truth behind your experiences, your spirit refuses to let you shrink back into the version of yourself that once accepted confusion as normal. You're not confused anymore, you're awakening. And awakening brings a new kind of clarity, the kind that makes it impossible to lie to yourself. You may have noticed this lately. Certain thoughts feel sharper, certain intuitions feel louder, certain desires feel undeniable. Certain boundaries feel necessary. This is your inner world restructuring itself. This is your soul saying, I'm not going back. And because you're honoring that truth, something powerful is happening. You're entering a phase where the universe begins rearranging external circumstances to match your internal alignment. You might notice people leaving your life without conflict. You might notice opportunities closing because they no longer match your frequency. You might notice new possibilities appearing that resonate deeper than logic can explain. This isn't chaos. This is correction. Your life is shifting into coherence. You've changed vibrationally, and now your reality is recalibrating to catch up. This is why the old feels uncomfortable. This is why the familiar feels outdated. This is why the predictable feels suffocating. Your spirit isn't aligned with the past anymore. It's aligned with possibility, with expansion, with who you're becoming. You can feel that becoming happening inside you every time you pause long enough to listen. There's a softness now, a maturity, a depth that wasn't always there. You're less reactive, you're more observant, you're more compassionate with yourself, you're more intentional with your energy. That's growth. Not the loud kind, not the dramatic kind, but the quiet evolution that happens when your soul sits in the driver's seat for the first time in years. And because your soul is leading, you're beginning to trust yourself in ways you never could before. You trust your intuition. You trust your timing. You trust your senses. You trust your expansion. You trust the signs you once ignored. And that trust is rewriting your reality. You may have felt a strange sense of emotional detox recently. Waves of sadness, waves of joy, waves of release that rise and fall without warning. This is part of the shift. Emotional density can't travel with you into a higher frequency. It must be released. And you're releasing it beautifully, naturally, intuitively. Your spirit is doing the work. Your mind is catching up. Your body is adjusting. And everything is happening exactly as it should. You're also beginning to access a quieter kind of power, not the kind rooted in control, but the kind rooted in presence. The kind that doesn't need to convince, prove, or chase. The kind that simply is. You're becoming more grounded, more centered, more aware of your own energy. And awareness is the foundation of transformation. People will feel this shift in you. They'll notice the calm, they'll notice the clarity, they'll notice the glow, they'll notice the change in your eyes, that depth, that knowing, that softness. They may not understand it, but they'll feel it, because awakened energy is unmistakable. And with this awakening comes a deeper truth. Your life is no longer about survival. Your life is no longer about performing. Your life is no longer about pleasing. Your life is about alignment, about becoming, about expanding into the version of you that feels like freedom. You can feel that version taking shape inside you, not as a fantasy, but as a memory, a recognition, a resonance. The person you are becoming is the person you were always meant to be. You're stepping into a timeline where your choices are intuitive, your relationships are meaningful, your purpose is clear, and your energy is respected. A timeline where you no longer dilute yourself for comfort or shrink yourself for acceptance. A timeline where your soul breathes without restriction. This is why the shift feels so intense, because you're dissolving the last layers of the identity that kept you from stepping into your truest self. You may feel emotional, you may feel reflective, you may feel sensitive, you may feel raw, but you also feel ready, more ready than you've ever been. Readiness isn't confidence. Readiness isn't certainty. Readiness isn't perfection. Readiness is alignment, and you're in alignment now. You don't have to force the next chapter. You don't have to chase the next breakthrough. You don't have to beg the universe for transformation. You're already in the transformation. Your job now is simple. Stay open, stay aware, stay aligned. Because the moment your inner coherence completes, your outer world will shift in ways that feel nothing short of miraculous. And you'll look back on these exact moments, this internal stirring, this emotional release, this growing clarity, and you'll realize they weren't signs of waiting. They were signs of preparation. Tell me in the comments if you're feeling this rising sense of readiness, this quiet knowing that the new timeline is closer than ever. You're standing at the edge of something immense now, something sacred, something ancient, something that feels like both a beginning and a return. Everything inside you has been preparing for this moment. Every shift, every release, every intuitive pull, all of it has been guiding you toward the threshold of the life that finally matches the frequency of your soul. And you can feel it, not in your mind, but in your body, in the way your heartbeat steadies when something resonates, in the warmth that fills your chest when truth touches you, in the tingling sensation that rises through you when you hear words that feel like they were written for your spirit, not your ears. It's the feeling of alignment weaving itself into your cells. You're not searching for signs anymore. You're recognizing them. You're not begging the universe for guidance. You're hearing it. You're not wondering whether you're awakening. You're living it. Something profound has shifted in you. You no longer collapse into old patterns. You no longer chase for validation. You no longer negotiate with your boundaries. You no longer force what doesn't resonate. You're becoming someone who chooses themselves without guilt, honors their energy without apology, and follows their intuition without fear. This is the true essence of awakening, not the aesthetics, not the rituals, but the transformation from internal fragmentation to internal unity. You're whole in ways you never knew you weren't. You felt this wholeness emerging lately, in quiet moments, in subtle choices, in the newfound ability to listen to your body when it says no, to honor your heart when it whispers yes, and to allow your spirit to lead without needing your mind's permission. And because of that, you've stepped into alignment with something far bigger than a single moment. You've aligned with your path. Not the path others expected of you. Not the path fear tried to keep you on. Not the path you forced yourself into just to survive, but the path your soul has been guiding you toward since the very beginning. This path feels different. It feels lighter. It feels truer. It feels inevitable. And what's even more powerful is this. You don't need to know where it leads to trust that it's right. That's how you know your consciousness has expanded, because uncertainty no longer feels threatening. It feels sacred. It feels like possibility. It feels like an invitation. You've stopped trying to predict the future and started allowing the future to rise from your alignment. And as your alignment strengthens, something deeper awakens. A sense of inner peace you've never felt before. Not the fragile kind that depends on circumstances, but the rooted kind that comes from knowing you are exactly where you're meant to be, with exactly the awareness you're meant to have, becoming exactly who you were destined to become. This peace doesn't mean your life is perfect. It means you are present. It means you're connected. It means you're tuned in to the quiet intelligence behind everything. And that intelligence is guiding you with a precision you can feel in your bones. You've started noticing that life responds differently to you now. People treat you differently. Conversations feel different. Opportunities feel different. Even the way you carry yourself feels different. You walk with a quiet confidence, not loud, not boastful, but steady and undeniable. The kind of confidence that comes from knowing your spirit is no longer negotiating its worth. And because of this inner shift, your outer reality is preparing to unfold in ways you once considered impossible. Your relationships will begin reflecting your truth. Your work will begin reflecting your gifts. Your environment will begin reflecting your vibration. Your future will begin reflecting your alignment. Life mirrors the frequency you embody, and you are embodying something magnificent now. You're beginning to feel gratitude for the things that once felt heavy. Gratitude for the endings that cleared your path. Gratitude for the emotions that taught you how to listen. Gratitude for the losses that redirected your growth. And gratitude for the version of you who never gave up, even when everything inside you felt like collapsing. You're realizing that nothing was wasted. Not the pain, not the confusion, not the doubt, not the waiting. All of it sculpted you, all of it shaped your awareness, all of it refined your heart, all of it prepared you for the life you're stepping into now. And now, here you are, awake, aligned, aware, ready. Even if you don't feel ready, your soul is. Even if you don't feel prepared, your frequency is. Even if your mind doubts, your energy knows. You've reached the place where your past no longer has power and your future has already begun whispering to you. And you can hear it clearly now. That soft, constant guidance that feels like truth wrapped in intuition. This is the moment you step into your new timeline fully, not with fear, not with hesitation, but with presence. Presence is power. Presence is clarity. Presence is creation. And you are creating now with every breath, every choice, every intention. Your spirit has risen. Your consciousness has expanded. Your frequency has elevated. No part of you is the same. And that's the point. You were never meant to stay who you were. You were meant to become who you are. And you're becoming now. Beautifully, powerfully, authentically. The shift isn't coming. The shift isn't near. The shift isn't preparing. The shift is here. And you didn't miss it. You aligned with it. So as you breathe in this moment, as you feel the truth settling into every corner of your awareness, understand this. You are ready. You are aligned. You are awakening. You are transforming. You are rising. And the universe is rising to meet you. Tell me in the comments if you feel it. Not as hope, not as guesswork, but as a deep knowing that your new reality has already begun.